The tipping point. How little things can make a big difference. Malcolm Gladwell. Suicide, smoker, and unsticky cigarette. Cigarette. 3. Does teen smoking follow this same logic? In order to find one more about a reason teenagers smoke, I gave several hundred people a questionnaire asking them to describe their earliest experience with a cigarette. This was not a scientific study. The sample wasn't representative of the United States. It was mostly people in their late 20s and early 30s living in big cities. Nonetheless, the answers were striking, principally because of how similar they all seemed. Smoking seemed to evoke a particular kind of childhood memory, vivid, precise, emotionally charged. One person remembered how she loved to open her grandmother's purse, where she would encounter the soft smell of cheap Winston and leather mixed with drugstore lipstick and cinnamon gum. Another remembers sitting in the back seat of a Chrysler sedan, smelling the wonderful mixture of sulfur and tobacco wafted out the driver's window and into my nostrils. Smoking overwhelmingly was associated with the same being to nearly everyone. Sophistication. This was true even the people who now hate smoking, who now thinking of it a dirty and dangerous habit. The language of smoking, like the language of suicide, seemed incredibly consistent. Here are two responses, both describing childhood memories. My mother smoked, and even though I hated the smell, she had these long tapered fingers and full, sort of crinky limbs, always with lipstick on, and when she smoked her looked so elegant and devil-may care that there was no question that I'd smoke someday. She saw people who didn't smoke were kind of gently godless, make you think, you would say, reveling in how ugly that sounded. My best friend Susan was Irish English. Her parents were on contrast to mine, useful, indulgent, liberal. They had cocktails before dinner. Master O'Sullivan had a beard, wore turtlenecks. Mrs. O'Sullivan tutted around the mules, dressed slim in black in match her jet black hair. She wrote heavy eye makeup and was a little too tan and old age. Virtually old age had a dangerously long cigarette holder dangling from a manicured hand. This is the third language of smoking, and it's as rich and expressive as the third language of suicide. In this epidemic, as well, there are also tipping people, salesmen, permission givers. Time and time again, the respondent to my survey described the particular individual who initiated them into smoking on precisely the same way. When I was around 9 or 10, my parents got an English fair girl, Maggie, who came and stayed with us one summer. She was maybe 20. She was very sexy and wore a bikini at the Campbell's pool. She was famous with a gowned man for doing a handstand in her bikini. Also, it was said her bikini top fell off when she drove. Mr. Carpenter would submerge whenever she jumped in. Maggie smoked, and I used to beg her to let me smoke too. The first kid I knew who smoked was Billy G. He became friends in fifth grade. When the major distinction in our suburb, NJ town, jokes, head, brain were beginning to form. Billy was incredibly cool. He was first the key to date girl, smoke cigarette and pot, drink hard alcohol, and listen to drowsy music. I even remember sitting upstairs in his sister's bedroom. His parents were divorced another first, and his mom was never home, separating the seed out of the thumb pot on the cover of the Grateful Dead album. The draw for me was the badness of it, and the adultness, and the way it proved the idea that you could do more than one thing at once. The first person who I remember smoking was a girl named Pam, P-I-P. I met her when you were both in the Rose grade. 10th grade. In the 10th grade, we rode the school bus together in Greek Neck, LI, and I remember thinking she was the coolest because she lived in an apartment. Greek Neck didn't have many apartments. Pam seemed so much older than her 15 years. We used to sit in the back of the bus and blow smoke out the window. She taught me how to inhale, how to tie a man-tailored shirt in the waist to look cool, and how to wear lipstick. She had a leather jacket. Her father was rarely home. There is actually considerable support of this idea that there is a common personality to hardcore smokers. Han Eystand, the influential British psychologist, has argued that serious smokers can be separated from non-smokers along very small personality lines. The quintessential hardcore smoker, according to Elsenk, is an extrovert, the kind of person who is sociable, like parties, has many friends, needs to have people to talk to. He craves excitement, takes chances, acts on the spur of the moment, and generally an impulsive individual. He prefers to keep moving and doing things, tend to aggressive and lose her temper quickly. His feelings are not kept under tight control, and he is not always a reliable person. In countless studies since Icelandic groundbreaking work, this picture of the smoking type has been filled out. Heavy smoker has been shown to have a much greater sex drive than non-smoker. They are more sexually precocious. They have a greater need for sex and greater attraction to the opposite sex. At age 19, for example, 15% of non-smoking white women attending college have had sex. The same number of white female college students who have smoked is 55%. The statistics for men are about the same according to Einstein. They rank much higher on what psychologists call antisocial indexes. They tend to have greater level of misconduct and be more rebellious and defined. They make a snap judgment, they take more risk. The average smoker household spends 73% more on coffee or 2 or 3 times as much on beer as the average non-smoking household. Interestingly, smokers also seem to be more honest about themselves than non-smokers, as David Coe described it in his Three-Side Smoking, the artificial passion. Psychologists have what they call lie test, in which they insert an agreeable statement. I do not always tell the truth, or I am something called to my spouse. And if test taker constantly deny this statement, it's taken as evident that they are not generally truthful. Smokers are much more truthful on this test. One theory, Crow Wright, has their lack of deep deference and their fate of defiance combine to make them relatively indifferent to what people think of them. These measures don't apply to all smokers, of course, but as a generally predictor of smoking behavior, they are quite accurate. And the more someone smokes, the higher the likelihood that he or she fit this profile. In the scientific spirit of light, I would invite readers to demonstrate the smoking personality condition to themselves by confirming the following experiment. Arrange to go to relaxed gathering of actor, rock musician, and hairdressers on one hand, and or civil engineer, electrician, or computer programmer on the other, and observe how much smoking is going on. If you experience anything like mine, the difference should be dramatic. Here's another of the response to my questionnaire. Can the extroverted personality be any clearer? My grandfather was omnipresent around me when I was very little who smoked. He was a great Renaissance figure, the trickster, hero, who immigrated from Poland. When he was a baby, when he was a boy, and who worked most of his life as a glazier. My mother used to like to say that when she was first brought to dinner with him, she saw she might at any moment whisk at the tablecloth of the table, leaving the setting there, just to amuse the crowd. The significance of the smoking personality, I think, cannot overstate. If we bundle up these extrovert traits together, defiance, sexual precocity, honesty, impulsiveness, indifference to the opinion of others, sensation seeking, you come to an almost perfect definition of the kind of person many adolescents are drawn to. Maggie, the Fair, and Dan P. the school bus, and Billy G. with his Grateful Dead record were all deeply cool people. But they weren't cool because they smoked. They smoked because they were cool. They bear the same character trait, rebelliousness and impulsiveness and risk-taking and indifference to the opinion of others and proclivity to made them so compelling to their adolescent peers, also making almost inevitable that they would also be drawn to the ultimate expression of adolescent rebellion, risk-taking, impulsiveness, indifference to others, and proclivity. The cigarette. This may seem like a simple point, but it's absolutely essential in understanding why war on smoking has stumbled so badly. Over the past decade, the anti-smoking movement has railed against the tobacco companies for making smoking cool and has spent untold millions of dollars of public money trying to convince teenagers that smoking isn't cool. But that's not the point. Smoking was never cool. Smokers are cool. Smoking epidemics begin to precisely the same way that the suicide epidemic in Micronesia began. The word of mouth epidemic began to age epidemic began because of the extraordinary influence of Palm P and Billy G and Maggie and their equivalent. The smoking version of R and Tom Gao and Gaetan Dog in this epidemic, as in all others, a very small group, a select few, in these epidemics, select few are responsible for driving the epidemic forward.